Welcome to a very special episode of the One Girl Revolution podcast. Welcome to Women's History Month. Let's celebrate the women that have come before us, who have paved the way. We also want to celebrate the women who are in our own communities, women around us who are changing the world every single day, and us. Every single woman and girl is a one girl revolution. We've said it before. You know, we say it all the time. We believe that every single woman and girl has the power to change the world through her life. And women and girls are making history every single day. So let's support our sisters. And on this episode, I'm so excited because you get to know some of my sisters, some of my dear friends, some new friends, and 5 incredible women who are changing the world. It's been a few years since I've recorded a podcast in front of a live audience, but we did it tonight, and it was a powerhouse lineup of guests in a full house. I hope that this is just the beginning and we can do more episodes like this in the future because it was a blast. It was so high energy. It felt like speed dating. I make a joke about that at the beginning of the episode, but it was 5 women in 40 minutes and it was just a powerhouse of incredible wisdom, incredible stories. You're just going to love this lineup. This episode came about because Bas Blue, a hub for women here in the city of Detroit, approached me about Women's History Month and the kickoff to Women's History Month on March 1st, and a new podcast series that they were working on called Fearless Fridays. And they asked if they could collaborate with One Girl Revolution on it. Of course, I said yes. I'm always looking for opportunities to collaborate with other incredible organizations and companies. And so today's episode is not only an incredible episode of the One Girl Revolution podcast and the kickoff of Women's History Month, it's also the launch of Bas Blue's Fearless Fridays podcast. You'll hear more about that in this episode, and you'll also hear from 5 incredible women. First off, we have Charity Dean, President and CEO of the Metro Detroit Black Business Alliance. Then there's our girl, Mama Shu, founder of Avalon Village. Then Amy Peterson, a friend that you've heard from before. She runs Rebel Nell, Tea, and the congregation here in Detroit. And fun fact, which I do share in this episode, Mama Shu and Amy were 2 of the first women that I reached out to and interviewed for One Girl Revolution. So as you know, One Girl Revolution has been around for 5 years. So it's been about 5 years that I've known both Mama Shu and Amy. So they share a little bit about their stories and the incredible work that they're doing. On this episode, you'll also hear from Alexa Turnage of Black Tech Saturdays and Kate Walsh, editor-in-chief of Our Detroit. You do not want to miss this energetic and powerful episode. So without further ado, let's go, girls. It's time for Women's History Month.
Good evening and welcome to the launch of Bas Blue's Fearless Fridays podcast. My name is Olivia and we are so excited for today's episode, which is a live podcast recording at Bas Blue in Midtown Detroit. We were founded in 2021 and we are a nonprofit organization supported by the Bas Blue Foundation. We are dedicated to empowering economic mobility and leadership skills to underrepresented and under-resourced women and non-binary individuals in Southeast Michigan. We are a robust community of over 700 members and physical collaborative spaces, including a cafe and this room that you all are in right now, which is called the Aretha Room. We provide personal and professional development programs, resources, and connections for those starting out and seasoned professionals. I'm so excited to introduce our partner and host for today's launch of the Fearless Fridays podcast, Kate Milligan. She is an Emmy-nominated producer, writer, speaker, storyteller, host of the One Girl Revolution podcast, and founder of One Girl Revolution. One Girl Revolution is a multimedia organization dedicated to highlighting the authentic stories of everyday women and girls who are changing the world through their lives. Without further delay, I'll hand it over to Kate.
Thank you so much, Olivia. I am so honored and excited to be here at Bas Blue. Thank you all for being here. I know that this is a little bit of an experiment. I feel like we're kind of all in, this little like petri dish to see how this podcast goes, because it's a little bit difficult where I hope you can all hear all of us. And then, like Olivia said, we're recording on this little contraption But I'm so grateful to Bas Blue for kicking off Women's History Month. Thank you for all of you for being here. I know each and every one of you are world-changing women and girls, and we have the power to change the world through our lives. So I'll give you just a very brief background on One Girl Revolution. As Olivia said, One Girl Revolution is a multimedia organization that highlights the stories of world-changing women and girls. And my background's actually in PR and media. And I founded One Girl Revolution right here in Detroit because I started recognizing that the media wasn't covering authentic stories of world-changing women and girls. Everything was always divisive or politicized. And so I thought, hey, if I could just start something. It started as a podcast, and then it's grown into documentaries. We have an Emmy-nominated documentary series on YouTube, and we highlight stories in so many different ways through social media, through the podcast. We have over 200 episodes of the podcast, and it just continues to grow and evolve. So part of today is we're actually kicking off the new season of the One Girl Revolution podcast. So if you haven't listened to it, I encourage you to go back and listen to it. A couple of the women who are going to be on the podcast today have been on the One Girl Revolution podcast. So if you want to hear more from them, you can go back and listen to their podcast, because I know today is going to be kind of pretty fast. It's going to almost be like speed dating, I feel like, between all of us. So you'll get a little snapshot into their lives, into the work that they're doing. And I just want to encourage each and every one of you, take a note in your phone and go back and look up what they're doing. Listen to a podcast episode that they've been on. Follow them on social media. We can all do so many things to support one another, to support our sisters. And I think Women's History Month is such a great reminder, such a great opportunity for us to say, hey, I love what that woman said. I'm going to follow her on social media. I'm going to share her organization. I always say that on the One Girl Revolution podcast, I always say that the free and easy way for any of us to support anyone is literally just to follow them on social media and maybe share a post or share something. They have an event coming up. Amy, we're going to talk about your International Women's Day event with Rebel Nell. If you see something that's going on, share it. Like I know many of you did with this event here at Bas Blue. Today, we're also kicking off Bas Blue's Fearless Fridays podcast. So you'll be able to listen to this either on One Girl Revolution's podcast feed or on Bas Blue's. And they're going to do episodes like this every single Friday. They'll be released on Monday. So make sure that you subscribe to Bas Blue's Fearless Fridays. We have some incredible guests today. Like I said, it's going to be pretty much like lightning round with each of them. But we have Charity Dean, the president and CEO of Metro Detroit Black Business Alliance, Mama Shu, the founder of Avalon Village, Amy Peterson, co-founder of Rebel Nell, T, and the Congregation, one of the owners of the Congregation. And Mama Shu and Amy were actually two of the first women that I reached out to when I started One Girl Revolution. And I just was looking up stories and women that inspired me and reached out to them. So I'm so excited to have stayed in touch with them and getting to watch them continue to grow and evolve and just flourish. It's been really, really inspiring. Today, we also have Alexa Turnage of Black Tech Saturdays and Kate Walsh, editor-in-chief of Our Detroit. So we're going to jump right into it, and I'm going to invite Charity Dean to come on up as our first guest here. And I love the wine. I feel like we're like Kathy Lee and Hoda, you know. I should have had wine. I wish more shows would actually like have wine.
Maybe they have wine in the coffee cups.
There you go. That might be it. That might be it. But Charity, I would love to hear a little bit about you and Metro Detroit Black Business Alliance and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a native Detroiter, born and raised here, and the Metro Detroit Black Business Alliance is an organization that started 3 years ago. So I'm a lawyer by trade. I formerly worked in the mayor's office and was the director of civil rights. And then when COVID happened, I led the city's small business response to the pandemic. And it was during that time when we really saw a need for an organization that would be unapologetically advocating for the needs of Black businesses. During the pandemic, Black folks got hit twice as hard, not just from the pandemic, but also their businesses. And so we started the Black Business Alliance in March of 2021. To date, we have about 1,500 members. And I'm going to share a secret with you. I don't know when the podcast is airing, but this is like exclusive breaking news.
We love exclusives. Let's go.
That on March 14th, we're going to announce that we will be the Michigan Black Business Alliance, and expanding and piloting our programs in other parts of the state. So
that is amazing. Well, we can't wait to support that and follow that. And
thank you.
Thank you for all the incredible work that you guys are doing. Can you talk briefly, I know we don't have a lot of time, but can you talk briefly about the programs and projects that you have that support individuals, support companies? Just tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing.
I should also say I'm a small business owner myself. So I also own a coffee shop called Rosa in Grandmont, Rosedale. And our job at the Black Business Alliance is to help close the racial wealth gap by creating programs and advocating for policies for Black businesses. So we do that in a number of ways. We have a Capital Connect program, which is like a cohort style program designed to get funding in the hands of these entrepreneurs. And the unique thing about the program is that we require funders to give us their underwriting guidelines. A lot of times when you're applying for a business loan, you don't even know the rules by which you're being measured. And so a part of our program is that we have a requirement to get those underwriting guidelines so that we can make sure that we're getting people funded. We do one-on-one business assistance. So that means maybe I need funding, but I don't have time to go through the program. I don't need to go through the program. We can help with those connections. I need marketing. I need, lawyer. We have a summer internship program where we'll pay for interns to work for our members. So in 3 years, we've been able to get $10 million in the hands of our members. But not just that, we are very, very active on policy. So when people are making decisions, whether it's at the city level, state level, even at the federal level, that impact small business, we raise our voice and lend our voice to the conversation. Because a lot of times, the small business, the middle class folks, these are the folks that are often forgotten. And so when you see things happening downtown, or you hear things, you hear things for folks that maybe are at one end of the spectrum or the other end of the spectrum, but the middle, the folks that are working every day, that don't have time or money, to advocate for themselves before city council or before state legislature, we step in and say, hey, have you considered this? Or if you're going to pass something that we oppose, we real loud about it. Like, no, we don't want it. So
the community is so important, that community aspect, because I think any of the women who are here today on this podcast, but also many of you sitting in this room, it can feel so isolating when you're a business owner or a founder of an organization, and sometimes you're like beating your head against the wall because you don't feel like you have the support. And so it's really incredible the work that you're doing, supporting all these individuals and their businesses. It's really incredible.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like people do come to our organization because of the community. They come because of the community first, and then they learn about all these other things that we're doing. But there's something priceless about being around people that are going through the same struggle as you and being able to feed off of that. So, yeah.
So since this is Fearless Fridays, I want to ask you, what makes you fearless? Big question. I know. I got asked this question earlier and I was like, I don't even know where to start.
I think of the definition of fearless is actually not the absence of fear. I have a whole lot of fear, like today, right? There are things that I fear. But the fearlessness is doing it anyway. And so I think the thing that makes me fearless is that I am a woman of faith. So I really do believe that like whatever is for me is for me. So I don't have to operate from a place of scarcity. I can share everything that I have, and I can do it even when I'm afraid, because I trust that there's a plan on the other side of it.
It's amazing. So One Girl Revolution, I guess the whole mindset behind One Girl Revolution is that every single woman and girl has the power to change the world through her life. Every single woman is a One Girl Revolution. We need to be reminded of that, the power that we have. You are a One Girl Revolution in my mind. All of these women here today are. Who is a One Girl Revolution in your life? Who is a woman or girl that inspires you?
Her name is Lauren Dean. She is my daughter. She is 12 years old. She knows no rules, no bounds, no boundaries. But she is absolutely fearless. She's just raised differently than I was, right? Like, she just does not see walls. And so Lauren, absolutely, she's my hero.
So the last question that I'm going to ask each of the women who are going to be on this podcast is the question that I always end my podcast on. And that is, if you could leave women and girls around the world with one message, what would it be?
Don't go at it alone. You never have to. Like the world is big and also so very small. That there is someone probably in your circle that's going through exactly what you're going through and probably could lean, and you could glean and lean from each other. So I would say don't go through it alone.
Amazing, Charity. Thank you so much for being on. Let's give her a big round of applause.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm going to bring up Mama Shu. I'm going to bring Mama Shu up next. You are Mama Shu. This is going well so far. We had one transition. Mama Shu, you're amazing. I'm so grateful to know you and the Avalon Village. When I interviewed you, I think it was 4 years ago. Yeah, you had already accomplished so much. And now it's like, I feel like every single day something new happens. So first you were one of the CNN heroes in December. And then yesterday I'm on social media and saw that USA Today just nominated you or called you one of the Women of the Year. So congratulations. You're so amazing. So for people that are here that don't know you or don't know your story and don't know about the Avalon Village, what is Avalon Village? And tell me about the great work that you do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to this beautiful space. This is really a beautiful house. I'm just comfortable. The wine was good, and the little box of vegetables and all of that was just really nice. I loved it. But Avalon Village is located in Highland Park, Michigan. Highland Park, Michigan is 2.9 miles. And what we decided to do was transform one block between Woodward and 2nd, Avalon Street, from blight to beauty. And what we did was that we just decided to revamp, rehab all of the vacant land on that block, all of the dilapidated houses, and make them into something beautiful and functional for the children, the elders, and just the whole community. Building with a green infrastructure, we have solar streetlights that we got installed ourselves. A homework house is ran by geothermal heating and cooling as well as solar. We have shipping container retail spaces, the Goddess Marketplace, which is an economic initiative for women entrepreneurs, the Wine and Tea Shop, WHINE and Tea Shop. STEM lab for the children, basketball court. So it's just a full-fledged village. We own about 98% of the block, about 45 properties. So I own all of the blank spaces there, and that was just the plan, to buy it and just build whatever I wanted to from the ground up. So that's what it is in a nutshell, what Avalon Village is. We have our own street sign too.
Yeah. And I encourage everybody here, follow Avalon Village. Like I said, follow everybody who's on this podcast, follow other women that you meet today, support their projects in any way that you can. But I encourage everybody to go to Avalon Village and check it out and go to the Goddess Market. It's so cool to just see, just all the amazing things that you're doing. So I know you always have a lot going on. What are some things that you're excited about? Some things that you have coming up, some things that you're working on that we can all support?
Yes, I do have something super exciting. So the Goddess Marketplace was established back in 2001 when I had a Goddess program going on, and that was to support women entrepreneurs. And so we would just do pop-ups, and so that's what we did for all the years. And so in 2016, we put it inside of a shipping container. That's when I ordered the shipping containers for the village. I'm like, this is our first retail space. And so we pop up between May and October, the marketplace season. And so now we're working on, it's the Goddess Marketplace expansion project. So basically I'm going to build across the street from our main house, basically a Goddess Marketplace mini mall. So it'll be made out of shipping containers. There'll be a beautiful gazebo, a guards booth. It's just beautiful, just a space where women can come and sell their wares, their goods and services. And we do pop up, like I said, between May and October, but this also extends the opportunity for women to be prosperous when it's cold, in the cold months. So I'm just getting this big structure built. So I'm really excited. I saw the drawings yesterday, so I'm really excited about that. So that's a collaboration with Huntington Bank. So I'm really excited about that.
That's amazing. Well, we'll all have to go and support it and keep our eyes on what's going on.
Yes.
and come and visit. So next I want to ask you the same question that I've been asking everybody is, what makes you fearless? For Fearless Fridays, what is it that makes you fearless?
So I was asked that earlier. So I don't know if everybody knows, but a lot of people know that I lost 2 sons. One was 2 years, 1 month, and 6 days old in 2007. And then the other one, he just got killed 3 years ago, Chinyelu. And his name meant invincible. So that particular experience is unthinkable to parents. You know, you just sit there and like, oh my God, what would I do if my child died? So that actually happened. And so after that happened, I'm like, whoa, okay. And I lived the next day. I just woke up because I thought for sure that I was just out of here. Just like you losing your kid, that's just the worst thing. And so I lived. And so I just woke up and felt that I was invincible. And then when my other son got killed too, I just knew it for sure. I didn't think that it would happen again, and it did. And so now I just thoroughly know that I'm the shit.
You are, though. We all we all love you.
Sorry, Robin, my PR lady.
So, yeah, I think of you so much and think about all that you've been through, and yeah, you're just such a beacon of light to all of us. And really, you are an example of turning blight into beauty. Because even in the most difficult chapters of life, we all can step up and keep going. You know, and the world needs us to be that beacon of light. And so you are that. Mama Shu, you are a one girl revolution, as you know, as I've told you before. Yeah. But who is a woman or girl that inspires you?
So who is a woman or girl? It's many, but when I was a little girl, it was Mother Waddles. I don't know if anybody knows of Mother Waddles. Yeah, and it was actually another lady too, but she was one, but it was Martha Jean the Queen. Those are the women that I listened to when I was a little girl. My grandmother had them playing on the radio, and she would be just talking stuff, and I just loved it. Like Martha Jean, she was just something else. I'm like, whoa. And I watched the work that Mother Waddles would do. I would see her charity car organization, and I would just see this. And so I was little, but I just paid attention. And so it's just so funny that I'm asked that, because I just realized that like last year that actually was embedded in my mind, that those women really, really had an impact on just my work and the things that I want to do and the things that I am doing here in the village. Plus she was Libra too. Mother Waddles was, like me. Libra in the house.
It's amazing to me when you think about the things that have happened to us when we were younger, or things that we experienced or listened to. And like, sometimes if you just take those moments and you think back at your life and you're like, oh my gosh, like that is connected. Yes. I might not be doing what I'm doing today if it wasn't for that, or just for something that somebody said to you, good and bad, right? We all have those experiences where sometimes somebody says something that, you know, makes it difficult for you to be the person that you were created to be. But that's so. I'll end your interview the way that I'm going to end each of them, which is, if you could leave women and girls around the world with one message, what would it be?
The message would be that you're enough. It would be especially to the young girls that they're enough. You're beautiful enough. You're thick enough. You're thin enough. You know, you're all of that. You're smart enough. You're brilliant enough. They need to know that you're enough. You were born with every single thing that you needed inside to be able to excel, to be happy, to have your self-esteem pumped up. You have all of that inside. And that's what I would leave them to, let them to know, that you are enough for everything.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mama Shu. Let's give it up for Mama Shu. And then I'm going to bring up my girl, Amy Peterson. Amy, I don't even know where to start with you, because you're doing so many different things. Rebel Nell, TT. I could see it in my head, the acronym, so that's why I was like,
Teach,
Empower, Achieve. The congregation. Give the people here just a little overview about who you are, all the things that you're involved in, all the things that you do.
Clearly a masochist, so we just get that right out there. But I'm a co-founder and CEO of Rebel Nell. Rebel Nell exists to provide employment, equitable opportunities, and wraparound support for women who are transitioning out of shelter living. The congregation is a meeting space. It was an abandoned church in Detroit that's now a gathering space for our community. T is a nonprofit. It stands for Teach, Empower, Achieve. That stands for that focuses on workforce development and providing those wraparound services for social enterprises. And then I'm silently working on the rectory, which, if anyone's been to the congregation, it'll be next door to it.
I'm so excited for that.
Oh, fingers crossed.
So I want to focus on Rebel Nell because there's a lot going on with Rebel Nell.
Yes.
There's a lot of ways that people here can support the work that you're doing, support all the individuals that you're working with and that are working with you. Tell me a little bit more about Rebel Nell, and you also have a really exciting event coming up on Tuesday. So I think that all of us should come and support you.
100%.
So tell me more about Rebel Nell and how people can support the work that you're doing, and then also tell us about the event on Tuesday.
So actually, Rebel Nell is I eat, breathe, and sleep Rebel Nell. It's what drives me. It gets me up every morning. I'm really proud of the fact that we just hired our 43rd woman out of the shelter to date. Thank you. And it's been an incredibly challenging business to run, but when we're able to see the progress. And so the women actually will graduate them into traditional jobs. So we just graduated our 37th woman into the traditional workforce. And what we're known for is we actually not only workforce development, the support, but we make unique one-of-a-kind jewelry out of repurposed material, such as repurposed graffiti, or if they're tearing down the Joe Louis, or if they're tearing down the Palace of Auburn Hills. We're where sustainability meets empowerment. I love what I do, and I'm really blessed to be able to do that every day. I want to prove to the world that you can be a nationally recognized brand that actually cares about your people, that actually gives a shit about moving the needle. And that's the hill I'm dying on. Literally. But I'm going to...
What about Tuesday, International Women's Day?
Yes! Oh, gosh. So we do an International Women's Day that's a little bit different than the normal International Women's Day. We like to kind of break the mold and celebrate people who are doing things differently. You know, it's not just the corporate ladder is important. I appreciate that, but we try to look at it from a different lens. Like for last year, for example, we had a woman who did burlesque dancing to come in and talk about body positivity. This year, our lineup's pretty incredible. We've got a woman named Sincerely Selena. If anyone's on the social media world, she's out there. She's incredible. But she became an influencer in her 50s. You know, this is a young person's game. I love that. I love that lens of you took on something that most of your generation doesn't even know about. We've got Erin Cummings, who's a well-respected actress. She did Detroit 187, Spartacus, a couple others. But more importantly than her Hollywood notoriety is, you know, she's a breast cancer survivor and took on in vitro and surrogacy and talks about the challenges of that and talks about mental health and really leaning into that conversation. We've got a meditation. So yes. And if you use code Bas Blue, you will get a discount. So just throwing that out there. But Rebel Nell's International Women's Day is, you don't want to miss it.
Amy, what makes you fearless?
I truly believe in getting up every day and doing something that terrifies you. It can be as simple as getting on the scale. Right? Right? But yeah, it's one of those things that I fully believe in leaning into. In fact, this is something I'm really practicing what I preach right now every day, because there's power in doing things that scare you. There's power in confronting those conversations. There's power in talking to people that maybe you wouldn't have talked to. And those things scare us. They intimidate us, but every time it makes us better. So lean into those fears.
Now, what about the One Girl Revolution question? Who is a woman or girl that inspires you?
Oh God, there's so many. My mom's a badass. I think, you know, that is something that we're so alike that sometimes we butted heads, but I'm grateful for, she was a trailblazer. She was like the first female attorney in a small town where I grew up. And watching and now knowing what I know about my life, I shouldn't have given her so much shit. That's for sure.
Now, if you could leave women and girls around the world, which I love this question just generally, but I think Women's History Month, it just kind of resonates with me in a different way. But if you could leave women and girls around the world with one message, what would it be?
I have two. One, you are the source of your own power, and no one can take that away from you. Nobody. I get emotional even just thinking about it, because I think people do. I think people get in our heads. I think we're living in a world of constant questioning and constantly comparing ourselves. You are the source of your own power, and it doesn't matter what the hell anyone else is doing. Number one. Number two, this is a brilliant philosopher I'm quoting, and it's going to show my education for sure. But is Dory from Finding Nemo? Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Life is going to throw so much at you. The currents are going to be wild. The waves are going to knock you on your ass. You're going to get hit in the face with rocks, and just keep going. Just keep swimming.
Amy, thank you so much for everything you're doing. Thanks for being on the podcast. And I'm going to bring Alexa up here. All right, Alexa. All right, so Black Tech Saturdays. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about Black Tech Saturdays, but tell me more about it.
Yes.
How did it get started? Actually, let's start there. How did it get started, and tell me more about what you guys do?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. It is some bad women in here today. Like, my goodness, I am so happy to see all of you all here. Like, a little bit about Black Tech Saturdays. I'm one of the co-founders of Black Tech Saturdays. My husband, Johnny Turnage, we founded it together a little over a year ago. I see some of our original members in here. It started as just 5 of us in a conference room trading notes. How many entrepreneurs or tech founders are in the room? Raise your hand. Okay, I love it. I love it. So you know that this journey is not for the faint of heart. It was just 5 of us trading notes, sharing contacts, and saying, can I press the easy button on this because I'm stuck? And are you stuck, or how can I work together? So that's how it started. And it's transitioned into over 7,000 people have come out. We've expanded to 2 cities, and it's become a movement around innovation and technology. So I'm just so thankful that so many people are benefiting from what we're doing.
So how often do you meet, and like, how can all of us get involved in the great work? I know that you just continue to grow. I keep seeing different things on social media, and I know there are a lot of collaborations that have come out of it. And like you said, it can be so isolating being an entrepreneur, and especially in the tech space. But how can all of us get involved in what you're doing? And when do you guys meet? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we meet twice a month at New Lab in Michigan Central. We've expanded to Baltimore and to New York. So if you have any friends, send them our way. And what was the other part of the question?
How can we all get involved? Do
Yes.
you just show up?
No.
Or
So we actually need your help. March 23rd, we're having our Women's Founder Takeover. So if you are an expert in any area concerning entrepreneurship, please go to my LinkedIn. There's a link where you can apply to be a speaker. And we are looking for you. We need women who can volunteer to train all the women in our community and the Black Tech Saturdays community in general on any area that you feel that you're a subject expert on. We need your help. We're looking for speakers for that now. And then our Women's History Celebration is March 30th. So I'm excited for that too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then like for Black Tech Saturdays, do we just show up, or do people message
it's
you?
inclusive and open to everyone. You can RSVP on Eventbrite. So definitely come out. Our next meeting is March 23rd. We'll be back in Baltimore on March 16th.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what makes you fearless, Alexa?
That's a very, very good question. And I have to follow up with Charity. This entrepreneurship journey is not for the faint of heart or anybody who can get stuck and stay stuck. And I have to every morning, and Johnny will tell you, Johnny gets up at 5:30 and is like ready to go. I am only fearless because I have to take a moment at that time, at that hour, and pray in my faith and just get centered and grounded, because if I don't, it's not good for anybody, including not him, nobody. It's just, if I don't have Starbucks in a moment with my CeCe Winans in a moment, it's just not going to happen at all.
I saw that CeCe is doing a show here in Detroit in a couple weeks. I was like, I need to go see her. That's
exactly. Me too. So I'll definitely be there, because it gets real. It gets real. This week is real. I'm sure all of you can be a testament to that. As we all fight and we're trying to, when you're creating these milestones for yourself and you're growing as a founder, it just gets so tough. And I'm just so thankful that even women in this room, that we can have community with one another, because if we didn't, this would just be a ghetto mess. And that's the truth. Yes.
Now, I know that you have a lot of women, like everybody who's already been on the podcast, and everybody in this room. There's so many women that impact our lives, so many women and girls. But for you, who is a woman or girl that inspires you? Who is a one girl revolution in your life?
That's a good question. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I'm inspired as I kind of scroll through social media. I make sure I'm following people who can give me some encouragement as I am sitting there, maybe taking a break. I listen to Joyce Meyer's 5-minute devotional every morning. Sarah Jakes Roberts, Morgan DeBon, who's the founder of Afrotech, all these amazing women who are trailblazers in their own right. I really take inspiration from them, and it's helpful.
Yeah. Some really amazing women that you mentioned there. So last question, if you could leave women and girls around the world with one message, what would it be?
That's a good question. I kind of relate to you. Growing up, I was an interesting teenager, as most of us women are, as we growing into our own right. And I gave my mom so much crap. And I had to go back and apologize to both of my parents because I'm like, if I ever have children, I don't have children yet, I'm like, I really don't want that coming back on me. So I wouldn't apologize. I'm like, I am not going to let that come back on me. But if I was just to give it any encouragement, it's just, this journey is full of ups and downs. And we have to celebrate those wins, and we have to fail and shift quickly when we're in the low parts. And it's just to be the clay that you need to get to the next step. We have to be so bendable and so moldable in this journey, because it's not everybody's not tenacious enough to go after it. So if you're going to take that journey, if you're going to take that step, just make sure you learn the lesson when you're in the valley so that you can get to the top. That's what I've been doing, and it's been paying off.
It's amazing. Alexa, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Alexa Turnage of Black Tech Saturdays. And now last but definitely not least, I'm bringing up Kate Walsh of Our Detroit. So Kate, I know many of us have probably seen Our Detroit on social media. You know, we read articles, but for people that might not know what Our Detroit is, what can you tell us about Our Detroit, the work you do?
Okay. So Our Detroit covers just about every category you can think of about Detroit, Metro Detroit, from food, entertainment, community, health. And I am the editor-in-chief, so I decide what gets to go in every issue, which is pretty amazing. But I feel like mainly my job is to tell your stories. Like, I read about you women and men, but it's and I get pitches, and I just go out into the community and I meet people, and I want to tell your stories. So the hard part is which stories to tell. But I do try to, just always keep diversity in mind, and especially telling women's stories. And it's fun to be the editor-in-chief as a woman, because the last two editors were men. And, it's nice to get the feedback that, hey, it looks like you're having more content that's women-related or more diverse and things like that. And it's, it's nice.
You've had a really incredible career in media and journalism, and I encourage everybody to go and look at your bio, because it's really incredible. And I was looking it up, and I shared before that I started One Girl Revolution because I felt like there were so many opportunities, or I saw so many missed opportunities where women's voices or their stories weren't being told by the media. But you've worked in media for a while, and for a long time, and I didn't want to say that word, but you said it. But you've worked in media for a long time, and have you seen a change in women's stories being covered more, or what's your perspective on that? What's your read on that?
Well, it's interesting because so my career, I think, in publishing started when I was 12, and I was a Detroit Free Press paper girl. And I got up every morning with my brother, and I delivered to this big apartment community in Royal Oak. And I started reading the headlines then. I mean, I remember like when John Lennon was killed and when the Pope died and all of these things. And then I read the comics. But I think I developed a love of media then. Then I went to New York right after college, and I got a job with a soap opera magazine. And soap operas were my passion. And senior year, I just said, I want to work for a soap opera magazine. And I found a friend who had an uncle in New York. I said, hey, we should go out and stay with your uncle. And she's like, I've never done that before. I'm like, why not? He lives on the Upper East Side. We should stay with your uncle. And so she's like, all right. So I just went and had a cold call with Soap Opera Digest and one other magazine. And then a week after graduation, one of them called and said, hey, we could use an editor. I'm like, what? Like, did this actually work? And so then I was there in that soap opera magazines for 15 years. And that covered a lot of stories about women. So that was an interesting place because some of the people we wrote about were like Susan Lucci and, badass women who've been in this industry for a long time and who were really making a difference in people's lives. I mean, I don't know if you guys watch soap operas, or your mothers or your grandmothers, they watch their stories. I mean, that is like, they're like family.
Yeah.
So
I watched all my children. I was homeschooled, and so if I did my homeschool, I was allowed to watch All My Children. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
And I still love Susan Lucci. I just think Susan Lucci is a queen. But you're right. Like, also they're real people, and they were advocating for women's voices and their stories to be told, even outside of soap operas. Right? People might roll their eyes and be like, "Oh, soap operas."
No, and the creators were women.
Yeah.
Myrna Phillips.
Right.
And Lee Phillip Bell. And,
right.
So, but I got an internship at All My Children too by just calling them up.
I'm so jealous.
And I was like, "Hey, I'm in New York. Can I have an internship?"
So I know you did that, and then you've worked at other publications.
Yeah.
Have you seen growth in women's coverage, or kind of what's your read on that? I know there's always a long way to go, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll ask you that question, but also, what can we be doing to support making sure that women's stories are being told in the media? Obviously, we can send Our Detroit and other One Girl Revolution, send me your stories of world-changing women and girls, but what's your kind of read on women in media, and what can we do to support more women's voices and their stories being told?
I think we just had a meeting about this, or not a meeting, it was an open event with Meet the Editors, and we were talking about how to pitch a story. So I think it's about how to sell yourself and have the confidence just to say, hey, this is me, this is why you should care about me, this is why people in Detroit need to know about me. But like everywhere, I mean, like me calling up ABC and saying I should work for you, because like as an editor, I appreciate it when somebody applies for a job and says that, like, this is why I should work for you, or who keeps following up. I always tell people that, like, if you're pitching a story, just keep following up. I'm not ignoring you because I'm not interested. I mean, I'm just busy. So if I get that third email, it's like, oh, okay, this person really cares. So I think that's it, like, as far as, telling women's stories and getting, I think we just have to have that courage and that faith and that confidence to believe in ourselves enough to say, you should care about me.
That's great advice. So just on that same note, what makes you fearless? Because I know that you probably have so many stories that you could tell us, and I know we don't have time, but what makes you fearless?
I think my family makes me fearless. I lived in New York for 30 years, a little over 30 years right after college, and had a family and, was raising the family there. And then one day it was just like, you know what, this marriage isn't working. Every time I go back to Detroit and see my family, I miss it, and I come, I feel like I'm going home, and, I've been there for 30 years, but it doesn't feel like Detroit. It doesn't feel like my family. My great-grandparents are all from Detroit. So I've got like 1 million cousins here. And that's always the joke, even in New York. They're like, everybody's your cousin. Everybody that we talk about is your cousin. So just having that support here, like I moved into a condo with my kids, and my mom is within walking distance. So I have a 14-year-old, and I have a 23-year-old, and I have a 25-year-old, and my 25-year-old is on the autistic spectrum, so he doesn't drive, and my mom is 80, so she needs help. So it's like I built this community. Now I feel like we're helping her, she's helping me. She picks up my son and takes him to basketball practice, and she's so happy because she's like, I never thought I would like actually see your kids' basketball games. And so it kind of makes me fearless because I have that support, but also knowing that, hey, I did this, I uprooted our lives, I came back, and it's working.
So on the One Girl Revolution question, and you may have already kind of answered it because I know you have a lot of amazing women and girls in your family, but who is a woman or girl that inspires you?
It's probably my grandmother. So my mom's mom, she grew up at 75 Arden Park in this mansion. Her father built it, and his initials are still on the engraving on the gate there. And they lost it. They lost the house, but she was taken in by her aunt, and her aunt still had money because she didn't invest in the stock market like my great-grandfather. And she fell in love with my grandfather, a poor Irishman, and she wanted to marry him, and her aunt said, if you marry him, you're losing everything. But she married him, and she had 6 kids, and he ended up suffering from alcoholism, and he was bipolar, so he was hospitalized and died in a hotel. But she raised the 6 kids by herself, and she didn't even know how to parent. Her mother was in Paris all the time. Like, we went back to that house once and she didn't want to go in. She's like, this is not a happy memory. But she ended up becoming this tennis champion. She ended up being ranked number 2 in the world, women's over 70 tennis. Like, it was this whole second life that she had. And she always encouraged us. She's like, if you play tennis, I'll buy you a Prince racket. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I'll play tennis. And she was a poet, and she was published in the Detroit News, and she just had this amazing life after, she got her kids out. And they're all like really normal people, just for the most part. My Uncle Larry, he's a little.
I love that too. I think.
Oh no, I hope he's not listening to this.
Women are so resilient, and also, like, I love that you shared that, like, in these different chapters of our lives, we always think like, oh, I'm too old, I can't go and do that. And my mom would always say, you don't have to die to have many lives, because like she went through all these iterations of, like, she became a doula when she was 60 years old. She was like, oh, I love babies and I love working with people. So we all can be that, right? Like, we don't need to limit ourselves. And so that's great that you shared that. So last question for you, Kate, is if you could leave women and girls around the world with one message, what would it be?
I guess I would say to not only follow your dream, but assess your dream. So for me, it was working for Soap Opera Magazine or writing for a soap opera. And that happened. And I'm like, okay. And then, I'm sitting there at that job. I love that job, but I ended up getting laid off because I made too much money or something. I don't know. But anyway, so then I was like, okay, what do I want to do next? I don't know. I want to stay home and work or be with the kids. But then I got a call to work for In Touch Weekly, which was a celebrity magazine. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And I did that for 7 years. But then I woke up one day and I'm like, this is not my dream. Like, what is my dream? I want to figure out how I can be closer to home, because I had 2 small kids and I was always working. So boom, like something happens. I get an offer for Westchester Magazine, which is where I was living. And it just, everything like that has always happened for me. Like, whenever I really concentrated on what do I want, then it happened. So I think I believe in manifestation, but also in making it happen. Like this job for Our Detroit. The day after I said, I want to move back to Detroit, LinkedIn shows up and it's like, there's a job at Our Detroit. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm getting my resume together. But just to recognize that and just to know, okay, if I really want this, I need to get my resume together. I need to go on LinkedIn. I need to start following companies where I want to work, going to events like this, talking to people. And it's like the Oprah book. It was one of those books of the month, The Secret. I don't know if anybody read that. But yeah, so it's all about, like, it's not magic that it happens. It's you keeping that at the top of your mind everywhere you go. So when you recognize it, when you meet someone, you're like, that's it. You can help me get my dream. So,
Kate, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I want to thank you, Kate. Thank you, Mama Shu, Amy, Charity, Alexa. There she is. Thank you to Bas Blue. Thank you, Christina, Olivia, everybody here. Thank you for all of you for coming out. Like, these kind of events, if you didn't show up, we wouldn't do them. So I'm glad that you guys showed up. Fearless Fridays, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. It'll be up on Monday. One Girl Revolution comes out every single Wednesday, so check it out. Like I said, follow everybody that you meet here tonight. Support one another. And I just want to leave you on one of my favorite quotes since it's Women's History Month. I love Calamity Jane, and she has this quote, and it's on my wall, and it says, I figure if a girl wants to be a legend, she should go ahead and be one. So happy Women's History Month. Go out there, be a legend, change the world. Each and every one of you are One Girl Revolution. So have a great night and enjoy the party. For more from One Girl Revolution, to listen to our podcast episodes, watch our Emmy-nominated documentary series, donate to our nonprofit organization, follow us on all of our social media channels, and so much more, please visit onegirlrevolution.com. That's the number onegirlrevolution.com.